everybody, and welcome back to Livy and Zozo's Reactions. Today we're going to be talking about the planet Mars. So guys, if you haven't checked out our first two videos, it was about Mercury and Venus, go check them out at the end of this video. So guys, the reason why I skipped Earth because we are on Earth and we don't want to move a bit too slowly for other people who want to have more fun with me talking about planets. So anyways, let's jump into the planet Mars. But first things first, if you haven't checked out our channel, we now have merch. So you can go check out our channel and buy some merchandise. That way if you want to be a meteorologist or a baker, you can check out the merch on our channel. So anyways, we're going on to the planet Mars. So Mars is the fourth planet from the sun in our solar system behind Mercury, Venus, and Earth. It's the seventh largest planet in our solar system, and it's larger than Mercury, but smaller than the other six planets. Mars was once like Earth, but first let's just get a quick overview of what we talked about in our past videos. So like we did with Mercury and Venus, we first go on to rotation and orbit. I'm going to be doing the same thing for Mars as well. And then that way we get a more detailed explanation of these planets and more. So guys, if you haven't checked out our channel, we have two videos, including the one with Mercury and one with Venus. If you want to check those videos out, go at the end of this video. We'll be putting them in the top left and the top right corner for y'all to watch. So anyways, let's talk about the planet Mars. Let's talk about Mars's rotation and orbit. Mars's rotation. So Mars has a pretty similar rotation to Earth does, because they both have a 24-hour rotation, even though if you round them to the nearest hour is different. But anyways, Mars has a 24-hour and 30-minute rotation. That is like the same rotation as Earth, but it's like 30 minutes off. If you round them both to the nearest hour, Earth would be 24 hours. Mars would be 25 hours. So they both have a similar rotation. So I want you to keep that in mind. And also, since Mars is the fourth planet from the sun, it has a larger orbit circle than Earth does, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Anyway, so its rotation is similar to Earth's rotation. So I want y'all to keep that in mind. Okay? Now, let's go on to its orbit. Mars's orbit lasts 687 days. That's pretty long. It's longer compared to Earth's 365-day orbit. So guys, to keep this in mind, remember, Mars and Earth have a similar rotation, but if you round them to the nearest hour, it's different, because Earth's rotation is 24 hours, Mars is 25 hours. Anyways, so before we get too out of control, we're going on, does Mars have an atmosphere? We covered this with Mercury and Venus. Mercury doesn't have an atmosphere and Venus does have an atmosphere. Mars does have an atmosphere, but it has a very thin one, which which means it doesn't really have an atmosphere, but it does have a thin one. But it can't trap some heat because it has a thin atmosphere. And plus, it's one of the smallest planets in our solar system. It's the second smallest planet in our solar system behind Mercury. So keep that in mind, because it could be important to know these facts. Now, let's go on to Mars's temperature. Mars's temperature is cold. So, it's extremely cold because it's farther from the sun compared to Earth. So Mars is pretty cold, but however, that doesn't mean it can get hot, because the warmest Mars has ever been was 70 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's short-lived and it doesn't last long. So anyways, Mars has an average temperature of like below minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty cold, well, to be honest, because Mars is farther away from the sun. And after Mars, there's an asteroid belt separating Mars and Jupiter. But we're not going to go on to the asteroid belt because we want to talk about the planets first before we go on to any of that. So anyways, since Mars is located farther from the sun compared to the 3 planets that are closer to the sun, Mercury is colder than Earth. Because basically, there's certain times in its orbit when it gets extremely cold, and certain points in its orbit when it gets extremely hot. Because I don't think any planets orbit in a perfect circle. Because sometimes a planet can be closer to the sun, sometimes a planet can be farther from the sun. So anyways, now, we didn't cover this with Mercury and Venus because in those videos, they were pretty short and fast-paced. But this time, we're going to be getting a more detailed explanation of Mars. So, now, we're going to be answering this question today. Did Mars used to be like Earth? Venus actually was once like Earth, but we didn't really talk about this because we had a lot of things to cover for Venus, but I may do that in another video. But we're going to be talking about, did Mars used to be like Earth? Well, if you ask that question, yes, it was once like Earth, but it was once like Earth. It had lakes, oxygen, a magnetosphere, and water, and more. So yes, you are correct. Mars was once like Earth and Venus was once like Earth, but they didn't retain the once like Earth thing forever. Something must have made them strip off their habitableness and made them what we call today as planets with no life. So yes, they were once like Earth, but something bad may have happened to them and erased all the stuff that it used to be like Earth. It erased all of that energy that could have made it habitable. And things that are on Mars are seeing if Mars was once like Earth. So that's a pretty good question, though, because Mars was once like Earth, but it wasn't like Earth forever, because something bad had happened, like an asteroid collision or something else that we don't really know. But anyways, we're gonna be talking about what are those little robots on Mars that were what are those little robots on Mars that explore Mars and capture its features? Those things on Mars are called Mars rovers. Mars rovers are these little tiny robots that explore Mars. That includes one like the Perseverance rover, the Curiosity rover, and Spirit and Opportunity rover, and more. They explore Mars because we know that NASA sends a lot of technology to other planets and capture them to see what they have on them. Well, it's different for Mars because Mars has Mars rovers that explore the planet to see if the planet once had life and plan for future missions to Mars. So right now, they're gathering information about Mars. And also, just because they gather information from Mars doesn't mean they are not doing it to this day. They're still there on Mars. Just how much of a thing that Mars can, because there's a lot of stuff on Mars like landscapes, mountains, volcanoes, and altitudes. There's a bunch of things on Mars that we've never even discovered before. And some stuff has been on Mars other than Mars rovers, but they're collecting data and information about Mars like water samples, exploring craters, and a bunch of different stuff. So that's a pretty fun fact that those Mars rovers are there on Mars. Now, let's talk about what are those gigantic stuff on Mars. We covered about this with Venus. Those gigantic stuff on Mars and Venus are known as mountain tops and volcanoes. Why are they there on Mars? They might have fallen. So basically, like volcanoes basically come from magma. They have lava inside them. You can call them magma or lava because volcanoes spew out lava and magma. So basically, those gigantic mountains are basically the things that you need to know, because somehow this stuff is real on other planets, not just planets like Earth. And plus, these planets they're real on other planets, and who knows? We've seen them before. So anyways, so let's talk about what volcano is on Mars. Mars has the largest volcano in our solar system, which is Olympus Mons. That's a fun fact, by the way. Olympus Mons is the largest volcano in our solar system. It's 3 times the height of Mount Everest. It's larger than Mount Everest. And it's larger than all of those volcanoes like Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea. Those volcanoes are pretty large on Earth, but they're not as large as Olympus Mons. Plus, here's some stuff that Venus and Mars has that Earth doesn't have. These volcanoes can grow to be very gigantic because they lack any tectonic plates which pulls together or in their crust. Earth has that, but other planets don't. And plus, these volcanoes that we are talking about today, they're real. And they're very real. Just because I'm talking, and I don't want you to get them mixed up with other stuff like Mauna Loa and all of that stuff like Mons. I'm not trying to get you mixed up. I'm just telling you about facts. These videos that I'm talking about are known as factual informational videos. So don't get them mixed up with the wrong thing. There's a lot of fake stuff out there. So anyways, so basically now let's go on to fault lines. Does Mars have fault lines? Well, I'm gonna tell you now. Yes, your question is correct. Mars does have fault lines. There's fault lines and there's thrust faults. There's a bunch of fault lines on Mars, which makes them the reason why the cause of Marsquakes. They may seem like a coincidence, but it's real. Now, Marsquakes happen on Mars with seismic activity, and they've been detected. One of the major factors of Marsquakes is like volcanic activity, or lava flows, because Mars is not dead. It's geologically active. They're active, so it's not really known by other people, but the information is true. Mars has Marsquakes. And they are not in the way you think they are. Because Mars does not have tectonic activity. These are caused by stuff that these are caused by different factors that you and me know about. These are caused by volcanic activity or more. And plus, there are very few basically the northern half of Mars is really smooth, while the southern half of Mars is heavily cratered. But we're gonna get onto that in a second. So anyways, guys. So, let's talk about what's the purpose of this video anyways. The purpose of this video, guys, is to inform you guys and tell y'all facts and information about Mars, because there are a lot of fake information out there. So don't even think about listening to those things out there, because they're fake and they're not real. And plus, you don't even have to listen to them, because what's the point? You're gonna make up false facts, and you're not gonna get true information. So this video is all about true information. And so I want y'all to keep this in mind, because this video is about true information, not false information or all of that. There's a bunch of things you need to learn from this. It's including planetary stuff and more stuff. And plus, after we go over the planets in our solar system, we're going on to the moons. But the moons part is gonna take a little bit of a long time, because some planets have a lot of moons to cover, and we can't go over them all in a month. So we might want to wait a little bit to finish that part. But anyways, back to the main part of the video. So where we stopped at. Now, let's talk about what's on the northern half of the Mars and what's on the southern half of the Mars. Well, I'm glad you asked, because there's a lot of stuff on Mars. Now, the northern half of Mars is smooth and rocky, and you can walk on there, but since Mars has a thin atmosphere and you can't breathe on Mars, you can't really go on Mars. So the northern half of Mars is smooth, and it's pretty smooth. Anyways, the southern half of Mars is like heavily cratered, and you don't really know what's on that, because there's a bunch of craters on the southern half of Mars. It's like heavily cratered with many features of all of that. Maybe those craters are caused by asteroid impacts that has impacted its early lifetime. Those impacts are probably the main reason why Mars isn't habitable to this day. Anyways, guys, so now we're gonna be asking a question. So it's but you're gonna need to get out your handy dandy notebook that we've used in past videos, and you're gonna be writing down what we've talked about today. You're gonna be writing down more, but because there's a lot of information we need to cover for today's episode or video. Because once we get into the Jupiter part, once we get into the outer planets, you're going to be taking a lot of notes. But right now, you have to write down what I said. So the first thing you need to write down is the northern half of Mars is smooth. The southern half, did I say northern or southern? Whatever. The southern half of Mars is heavily cratered with a bunch of asteroid craters on Mars. So write that down. You don't really need to write down exactly what I said, because there's a bunch of things we need to talk about in today's video. And plus, there's more things we need to talk about. Alright guys, it's time to wrap it up in today's episode. We've talked about a lot today. So if you want to check out more videos, we'll be posting more and more content. That way you'll know about the planet Mars. So guys, if you want to check out our first two videos, we'll be posting them in the top right corner on your screen. That way you can check them out and you won't have to find them on the channel. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, because we're gonna be starting the outer planets next time. So bye.